We're back to the Neil Haley Show. My guest today is Dr. Charles Simkovich from Simkovich Concussion Institute. Dr. Charles, how are you? And I can't believe we're getting closer to summer. And during summertime, that means a lot of kids now are going to play sports for the first time. And guess what? Just because they've been playing it for the first time, there can be a chance that they could get a head injury. And parents start to worry about these things, especially when we're talking about baseball for the first time, t-ball for the first time, softball for the first time, because accidents happen, right?
Oh yeah, they do, and parents are very aware of it, and they're really aware of the variable skill level of these kids. I had a father; his son had a concussion in playing baseball, and he said they were like 9 or 10 years old. He took them to the practice, and he said there was this one kid on the team started firing the ball around, and he was like, "Uh-oh, my boy's not at that level." He said, next thing you know, the boy got plunked, and missed school for a week. So it's very real. They're still developing coordination wise. A lot of them trip and fall. They haven't learned how to slide in the base yet. They haven't learned how to tag people properly. I've had people get tagged in the head, or the baseball etiquette's not taught yet. They're still learning. They let the bat go and it hits people. So it's almost calm. It's cute, but it can end up pretty dire.
You froze for a second. I'll get through that. Continue to answer that question again. Good.
The whole thing.
Not the whole thing. The final part about when it hits the head. Yeah. So
kids will let go of the bat. They don't understand to hold on to the bat and throw it into a safe spot. And just the number of kids that are playing sports in the summer, weather breaks, it's like a herd of horses running outside, and just the numbers and the likelihood goes up, and the chance of injury goes up just from a trip and fall running around, or kids jumping on other kids in pools off of diving boards. I've seen that happen numerous times. Swimming accidents. Weekend warriors, even adults. They go to church functions and they play volleyball, and I've had you name it, people find a way to hurt themselves.
So let's talk about that further now. When you talk about those specific injuries, you talk about it happening. I'll give you an example. When kids go out in the outfield for the first time playing t-ball, and yet there's a kid 2 years older than them, and they're a 4 or 5 year old, and smack, the ball hits their head. What do you do next? Should you be concerned when a kid gets hit in the head with the ball, or gets some sort of head injury playing a summer sport like baseball or softball, I guess a lot of times we still shake it off. We say, okay, he seems okay, instead of really going to a professional quickly.
Well, what the parents want to do is watch for a change in their behaviors, change in their sleeping habits, complaining about vision, a drop in their performance in school. All that are telltale signs that, listen, something happened. And, sometimes they're slow to develop, sometimes they're instant, but sometimes they can be delayed. And, everybody knows their child and how they're performing and acting. And you really want to watch the behaviors and, if there's changes in their sleep habits. And most parents know before the child does that, hey, my child is different. They're not the same as they were before.
So there's a big part of the behavior process, right? Dr. Charles, you're basically saying that just because this happened, the effects could happen 3 weeks later. It
can be delayed. Such as in a car accident, when there's trauma, your fight flight kicks in and your endorphins kick in, painkillers. And once these endorphins and natural painkillers start leaving the system, then you start to feel more pain often. So that can be 2, 3, 4 weeks post-trauma, such as in a car accident. A lot of people don't feel the injuries from a car accident until several weeks, even months later. Now, if you have trauma and you feel pain immediately, that's not good, because that means it was a pretty significant trauma. Wow. And I think most parents, I've noticed, are real careful about watching our kids, especially moms. Dads will say, "Oh, you're okay, shake it off, get out there." Moms are like, "No, take my baby off the field. Something's wrong with him, or he got hit, and I want to check him out."
Should they get checked out immediately, or look for check behaviors first?
Yeah, they'll know right away if it's pretty significant. They'll know when they go home that their child is different, behaving different, or crying, or talking about their head hurting, or there's a noticeable bruise or welt or tear of the skin, and you want to get that looked at. And the first place you want to go is the ER. Have the ER doctor check them out, make sure everything's okay. Most of the time, they won't run a scan on a little kid. Older, yes. Significant injuries, yes. But the ER doctors are real good at vetting, really what's wrong. And then after that, if the ER doctor gives you a clean bill of health and says there's no pathology, no fracture, no anything they detect, and if the problems continue or the patient deteriorates, then you want to get them to have them checked out by a qualified professional.
And that means basically do that. Now, what if there's no symptoms, but it was a big blow to the head? Do you recommend them seeing someone like you just for precaution if that happens?
Some people do, but it's possible to sustain an injury and really not have symptoms or have damage. Sometimes just, all the stars align right and you take a shot and you really are okay. I've examined people who had a head injury and, they're okay. Like I had a lady had a concussion and she was a patient, and then she brought her brother in for me to look at him too, and he needed some care. She said, "Well, I'm here. Why don't you take a look at me?" And she was totally fine. She had hit her head on the car frame, and she said, "I'm not feeling bad, but I'd feel better if you look at me." And she had done no damage. I know an orthopedic surgeon. Tricky things happen. I have an orthopedic surgeon had a fella scheduled for disc surgery, and the guy never showed up. And here he saw him a month later in a grocery store of all places. And he said, "Are you okay?" And the guy said, "It's the weirdest thing." He had been on a ladder 10 feet in the air, slipped and fell, landed on one foot, twisted, heard a loud pop in his low back, and all the pain went away. So he said he was feeling good, so he didn't go through the surgery. But you're talking about that was just the right angle, just the right thing. And just like you can get injured, good things can happen too. It's rare, but I thought that was an interesting story when he shared that with me.
All right. And the best place to go is Simkovich ConcussionInstitute.com. Right now, on schedule a call with Dr. Charles today. I appreciate it, Dr. Charles. Another great conversation.
Yeah. Thanks for your time, Neil.
All right. You're listening, watching the Neil Haley Show, and we'll be back in just a moment.